new entrant into the race this week with Elissa Slotkin, letting everybody know that she's bringing her alpha energy to the presidential race, maybe in a interview with the Des Moines Register, which no one talks to the Des Moines Register and think they are, unless they are running for president. She essentially said that she is considering running, but she phrased it as, well, I'm going to consider, I'm going to be evaluating, I'm going to look to see if there's a lot of people and maybe I'll do it, which was essentially the what she told Playbook in a buzzy feature with Adam Wren a couple of days ago. There's plenty of candidates who've been showing up in South Carolina and New Hampshire and building their profiles. And if I can say it, running a very 1997 presidential campaign, writing a book and doing it in a more traditional way for months. I mean, at this point, maybe years. Also saying she's surveying the field. I am ready to find that candidate who's going to shake things up, lead from the front, not the back, and take us into whatever this new chapter is, because what we did in the past didn't work. And it seems like she is looking for a freshman senator from the great state of Michigan to guide us out of it. Jonathan Martin with a sort of snarky tweet on this. Slotkin wins Senate seat with under 50 thanks to third-party candidates. Waits all of a year and change after being sworn in, start running for president, and taking out the chainsaw on would-be rivals, which I thought was interesting. I mean, it's just funny the way Slotkin is sort of proceeding into this because, she's saying, well, it's I mean, I don't know who it could be. It seems like it's got to be me, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think there's something to be said for, she's been touring the middle of the country. Like she was in Idaho, she was in Overland Park, Kansas. She was in Ohio this past weekend after Iowa. And she keeps saying that what works in the middle of the country works in America writ large, and that's not necessarily always the case about the coasts where, which tend to dominate the Democratic Party. I think that's true. I think she is good at talking, which is important. She talks like a normal person. I think the alpha energy thing, not my favorite bit of hers, but I watched she did this town hall in Kansas, a Vote Vets town hall. And I mean, when you watch her for a full hour plus, she's really, really good. And she tends to genuinely resonate with a lot of people in the middle of the country. She did this focus group with Trump voters when she was in Iowa. At least one of them came away talking to the, papers saying they would consider voting for her. I think she's smart and doing a lot of interesting things. Her background, she has won. She flipped a Republican House seat and then she won in Senate, in Michigan Senate race, even as Kamala lost Michigan. So I think she's a compelling speaker, but I do think it's a major risk to be throwing bows like this, where it's everyone else is running a 1997 style campaign and I'm only doing this because everyone else sucks.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a good way to put a target on your back.
The markets have her priced pretty interestingly. If you look at Kalshi and all the above, they have her below Graham Plattner, but above Roy Cooper at 0.8%. Polymarket doesn't even list her, which I think is insane. And Predictit has her below Stephen A. Smith, which I think that's a little... Yeah. Listen, do I think that Elissa Slotkin has a clear lane as she jumps into the race? No. But I can see there are people for whom, that is an appealing candidate. It's just sort of, the idea that she wouldn't even be listed in Polymarket feels a little crazy to me.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we're not taking any money from any of these guys, and I wouldn't put a ton of stock in the super early ratings here. It seems like there are a lot of people like Slotkin, Gallego, others who seem very clearly to be thinking seriously about a run, and have a lot more to offer, and they're way down in the rankings. And then you've got Michelle Obama in there. It's anyone that's ever talked to either Obama is she would rather jump off a building than run for president.
She ain't doing it. But here's what I did think was interesting. There was a market on Kalshi where they say who's going to be the Democratic VP. And they have her at 3%, which to me is insanely low. They have her below Wes Moore and Mark Kelly. I also want to briefly pause and say this market is insane. I mean, I'm just looking at this. Whitmer at number 1, Talrico at number 2. There's no way that James Stout, no matter who, maybe there's a world where he wins and runs for president and whatever. There is no way a Democrat, if he wins the Senate race, is going to pluck a Democratic senator out of Texas who would then be replaced by a Republican, a Republican governor. There's literally no way, but they have him at number 2. I mean, it's total nonsense.
I mean, yeah, I would not put James Talrico certainly that high on the list. It's because you also have to think about who would be selecting him. You know what I mean? Honestly, Kamala is kind of the only one that jumps out to me as like, I could see her wanting like a younger white guy who's
Yeah, but
like,
then there's like a whole
right. He's not the only.
who won't cost you a Senate vote. I mean,
Right.
there's just, you know what I mean?
The Senate vote thing makes it
There's
like
no
a total
way.
non-starter. I guess maybe he could lose the Senate race and then be picked as the VP.
But I do think but then that I think sort of frames up a little bit the lens of the Slotkin stuff, which is like I do think that she's like for the right person a compelling vice president. Mostly because like there's a world where somebody wins who doesn't have national security experience. You know, Slotkin is you know sort of career CIA, career National Security Council, and so you know like there's a argument that you might want someone who's got that, and she's got this sort of brash way of speaking. You can see why someone would find her to be super valuable in that context. So you know, I think 3% likelihood.
It's all the same reasons that she was chosen to give the Democratic response to the State of the Union. You know, a few months after we lost to Trump. Well, you lost. I was,
you were lost.
I was trying to win other stuff or something.
I want to show this video of Slotkin at the Majority Dems confab where she diagnosed what went wrong in 2024.
Trump and the Republicans had their talking points on the economy. That's all they talked about constantly. And for Democrats, we talked about all the issues. And so no one could figure out what our priorities were. And I think in a perfect world, Democrats would have come out of that drubbing, done the autopsy, and been like, okay, here's the plan. Here are the 3 points. Here's what we're doing. We're all on the same page. Democrats, as a big tent party, have not been in the habit of having some like chain of command leadership, some alpha energy at the top saying, you know what? We care about lots of things, but we gotta win.
I like, first of all, this whole thing of Democrats are not used to having somebody in charge. Sure seems like that person should be me.
Yeah, it's a kind of a funny bit.
But her analysis is, I mean, it's not incorrect, right? Which is, you know, the Republicans were more focused, Democrats weren't. I think that Republicans were talking about more things in the economy, but it all sort of leveled up to general discontent.
We were only talking about the economy and the size of Arnold Palmer's dick and trans stuff and whatever the fuck else happened. Like, I wouldn't say message discipline is Donnie's best trait, you know?
Yeah, but the Republicans, I mean, they were, I think, a little. I think they were more clearly focused than. And I don't just say that was the campaign. I think about Democrats more broadly.
Totally, I think that is a very real dynamic. And like all like their ads, a lot of their stuff, like even when they were talking about issues, it was all kind of like funneling back to like, and we'll help you be able to afford stuff. And you know, and like to your point, I think that it is a major problem that we just have a laundry list that, and we've been, you know, we just name check every policy that we've ever supported. You know, we're like the literal embodiment of the fucking "in this house we believe" signs. You know, and it's just like, it's just like nobody knows what you actually stand for if you stand for everything.
Yeah, 100%. But speaking of who has alpha energy, no less than Elissa Slotkin has alpha energy. Here's a little cut.
And then on the second side of it, just bringing a little alpha energy back into the party.
Alpha energy.
And then number 2, if I can be frank, is a little harder to grab onto. It's like people are looking for a little alpha energy.
Yeah.
And I think I had like a little bit more alpha energy than the average Dem.
Alpha energy.
The alpha energy, I mean, sports is like our religion in Michigan, right? And it's that coach energy. How are we going to get from the dark place we're in through the tunnel to the light?
Alpha energy.
I talked with Hasan Piker this week, and he essentially said that there was a double standard on you going on Bill Maher's show versus his Twitch stream. Do you want to respond to that?
Well, first of all, I've never been invited on his stuff.
On his stuff is
There
very
are
funny.
a ton of podcasts or, you know, invites that I've not taken. And every politician has to make their choice. They have to make a decision about what they're going to go on. So I've been on Bill Maher, I think this is my 4th time. That's just how I feel, given some of the things that were said.
How I feel given some of the things that were said.
I just think this is like a tough position to hold, which is I'm alpha energy, I'm blah, 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 like da, 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 da. And then like, well, I can't be, you know, I can't go on the show. He's you know, I don't like what he said. It isn't what you would do then go on the show and, you know, and own him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Alpha
like,
him.
Yes.
Alpha
energy.
Hasan Piker, the beta cuck.
The beta cuck. Yes, like I think part of what she said in the longer clip is like she was like, he's constantly calling me stupid on the show. Like, why would I go on a show where they're like always insulting me? And like, again, maybe that's not alpha energy, but I do think like the real core of this question is like, are you gonna like should we be canceling people for going and talking to people that don't agree with them on everything? I don't think that means like anyone who doesn't do every interview ever, lacks alpha energy. But yeah, it's a tough. I mean, again, like similar to the calling everyone else out for running a 1997 style campaign. Like you kind of like
You got to
kind of then looks bad when you're setting yourself up for failure when you're then like, don't do alpha energy over here.
Yeah.